Shelley Duvall is best known for playing the wide-eyed, petrified Wendy Torrance in Stanley Kubrick's iconic horror film, The Shining. The then 30-year-old actress was terrorized by the details-obsessed director, who isolated her from the rest of the crew, berated her and demeaned her. Despite starring in numerous other big hits including Popeye, 1980, Time Bandits, 1981, and The Underneath, 1995, she retired from acting in 2002 and retreated from the spotlight. Now aged 73, Duvall has made a rare public appearance on a fan's Instagram page, smiling for the camera as she looked over old film memorabilia. Read more. Have you got a story to share? We want to hear all about it. Email us at yourmirror@mirror.co.uk. The fan who goes by the handle Shelley Duvall so wrote, "Today was such an emotional yet very exciting day with Miss Shelley Duvall. We spent hours having genuine conversation and lots of laughs, and some cries, but she's such a kind, fascinating, and beautiful person. I'm so happy to know, even if she's missing a front tooth." Duvall's last major public appearance was in 2016 when she broke cover for the first time in a decade to give a worrying interview to Dr. Phil. Asked by the host about her health, Duvall replied, "Well, you know, damned if I do, damned if I don't. I mean, if I say I'm healthy, first thing they'll do is hurt me tonight." When pressed on who she was talking about, the actress replied, "Whoever is in the security or at the bank, doing night work." In distressing scenes, the star claimed that the Sheriff of Nottingham was after her and that a revolving dish had been implanted in her knee. On the subject of her Popeye co-star, Robin Williams, who died earlier that year, she said he had shape-shifted into different forms. "Well, Beatles escapes," she said in the interview that was widely slammed. "I don't know, Stones escape. He looks real good in some forms and in other forms he doesn't," she added, before admitting she was very sick and needed help. One viewer, Stanley's own daughter Vivian Kubrick, was disgusted by what she called the exploitative nature of the interview, and wrote to the show to complain about the utterly heartless form of entertainment. "You are putting Shelley Duvall on show while she is suffering from a pitiable state of ill health. Unquestionably, this is purely a form of lurid and exploitative entertainment. It's appallingly cruel," she tweeted to Dr. Phil. Shelley Duvall was a movie star. Whatever dignity a mere unfortunate creature might have in this world, is denied her by your displaying her in this way. I recoil in complete disgust. I hope others will join me in boycotting your utterly heartless form of entertainment, because it has nothing to do with compassionate healing," she raged. Vivian had personally witnessed some of the treatment dished out by her father, which was captured on camera in her making of documentary Stanley Kubrick, A Life in Pictures. In it, lead star Jack Nicholson praised the director and the film they created together, but admitted Kubrick became a different director around Shelley. Kubrick was caught on camera telling her she was wasting everyone's time on set and rubbishing her suggestions in front of the crew. Rumors of the infighting and tension on set quickly made their way into the public, despite Kubrick's fierce dislike of the media. The Shining's author Stephen King had wanted another actress, Jessica Lange, to take on the role of the tough but naive cheerleader-esque wife and mother Wendy Torrance, whose mental health in the book is twisted by terror as her husband Jack Torrance, played by Nicholson, loses his sanity and becomes murderous. But Kubrick was adamant Duvall was the right person for the job and set about recruiting her. Unfortunately, The next 13 months of working with the legendary director would drive her to the brink of madness. "I guess this is what most people know me for, right? And look, I won't get into too much detail now, but that film was hell to be a part of," Shelley admitted years later. "I mean, there was a great cast: Jack, Scatman, Crothers, Danny, Lloyd. They were all wonderfully hilarious people, but then there was Stanley Kubrick, the director of this iconic masterpiece. All I'll really say for now is that if he hadn't directed the way he did, if he hadn't done everything with force and cruelty, then I guess it wouldn't have turned out to be as it was." From her first day on set, Kubrick took every opportunity to punish Shelley for unidentifiable misdemeanors, and forbade the other cast and crew from offering her any comfort, telling them to ignore her whenever possible. "Don't sympathize with Shelley," he bluntly instructed them, leaving the young actress utterly alone and friendless during the most challenging role of her life. In order to get the most authentic reaction to the famous baseball bat scene, in which Jack Nicholson's character slowly stalks and advances on his wife as she desperately tries to escape, Kubrick never explained to Shelley what was going on. He handed her a bat and captured her genuine fear and terror as Jack prowled up the stairs towards Shelley, who by the end of the record-breaking 127-take scene was exhausted, hoarse and dehydrated from crying. She had bloody, raw wounds on her hands from clutching the weapon after tyrannical Kubrick coldly ordered her and Nicholson to repeat take after take to get the terrifying scene exactly as he wanted it. Shelley even started losing her hair from the stress of being on set and being subjected to the director's so-called special requirements. Kubrick would cut her lines without notice and keep her isolated from the rest of the cast, not even giving her a single compliment about her acting to keep her in a state of stress throughout filming. "From May until October I was really in and out of ill health because the stress of the role was so great," she later told David Hughes in his book The Complete Kubrick. "Stanley pushed me and prodded me further than I've ever been pushed before. It's the most difficult role I've ever had to play." The legendary door scene, in which the unhinged Jack Torrance breaks his way through a bathroom door with an axe to get at Wendy as she desperately tries and fails to escape from the tiny window, was another source of torment on set. The scene took 3 entire days to film, with Shelley once again expected to produce take after take of full-body hysteria till Kubrick could get his perfect shot. Nearly 60 wooden doors were used during the shooting, and Nicholson admitted Shelley had the toughest job he had ever seen. Jack said she came to him at the end of one day to show him clumps of hair that had fallen out of her scalp, adding that Shelley often felt physically sick from the pressure she was under to perform to Kubrick's exacting standards. When the film was eventually released, critics immediately pounced on Shelley's overwrought acting, which was described as comically bad. Both she and Kubrick were nominated for the inaugural Golden Raspberry Awards, a foil to the glittering Oscars ceremony to highlight the worst movies of the year. A hurt Shelley retreated into herself after the poor reception, later telling film critic Roger Ebert that she felt overlooked by the public after going through such a production. Jack Nicholson's character had to be crazy and angry all the time. And in my character, I had to cry 12 hours a day, all day long, the last 9 months straight, 5 or 6 days a week, she pointed out. I was there a year and a month, and there must be something to primal scream therapy because after the day was over and I'd cried for my 12 hours, I went home very contented. It had a very calming effect. During the day I would have been absolutely miserable. After all that work, hardly anyone even criticized my performance in it, even to mention it, it seemed like. The reviews were all about Kubrick like I wasn't there. Stephen King famously hated what Kubrick had done to his portrayal of Wendy, complaining to Rolling Stone in 2014 that, the movie, is so misogynistic. I mean, Wendy Torrance is just presented as this sort of screaming dish rag. His dislike of the movie was so strong that he even paid out of his own pocket for a TV mini-series of the novel in 1997. In order to get Kubrick's approval to readapt the source material, King had to agree in writing to stop criticizing the original film apart from its portrayal of Jack Torrance being insane before arriving at the Overlook Hotel. As for Shelley, she occasionally gave interviews about her experience of working with the perfectionist director and the trauma she experienced at his hands. She's believed to have retreated to her rural Texas home and is rarely seen in public anymore. The Actors Fund of America reportedly stepped in after her Dr. Phil interview to help pay for treatment. Shelley also blasted ageism in Hollywood in a previous Instagram post next to a picture of her younger self swigging a beer. "Life itself is one big roller coaster," she captioned it. "When you reach fame it's as though you're right at the top of this wild ride and you don't come down until your image starts to, when you're getting less roles and the public aren't as interested. In some years' time a person will mention your name and the other might go, who in the world is that? Unless you're Shakespeare or God. This hasn't happened to me yet, the point where I'm no longer relevant, but it will. It's not that I can predict things, it's just that after a certain age people in Hollywood are suddenly getting offered less roles in films," she added. "It's a bit, okay, it's definitely, ageist, I know. To me the age that you are doesn't define the talent you have. A 20-year-old can be just as capable of remembering lines and doing what is needed just as much as a 55-year-old. What did you think of The Shining? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.